I'll tell you a little bit about my materials as I'm painting, but I'm going to move right along and get this done. But this is actually a Stay Wet palette, and I like to put my oil paints in there with a nice little palette. And put the cover on, and you can put it in the refrigerator, and your oil paints last a very long time. My maul stick / backspatter. But it makes a great maul stick because you hook it on and it doesn't move. With regular maul sticks, they slide, but this is great. Dollar store. And I did have another water here someplace, but I can't find it. All right, I'm going to start right off. And my glasses.
You have to position these.
Yep. Well, let's turn this chair. Put your back flat against here. That's it. Turn. Are you sitting upright okay?
I am.
Comfortable?
Okay. I am.
I want you about like that. And I'll.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Reed. That's good like that.
Okay.
Except you're a little far away from the curtain, but I think I'm going to leave you there. All right?
Okay.
Maybe slightly more this way.
Good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going to move this. Sorry, Gary. I move this thing here. Move the curtain a little. It's easier than moving her. Okay. All right, we're all set.
I told her no wrinkles and no
Oh,
double
yeah.
chin.
They're going to be painted right out. Okay. I'm going to start just sketching her in with raw umber and turp. Oops, put in the oil by mistake. Didn't want that. And I don't usually use this French easel. This is more for plein air. But all my easels are on loan to my friend who does art parties. And I was stuck without an easel. This works out great, though. Carried all my stuff in it and didn't have to have anything else. And I'm very comfortable with this on the table. All right, so raw umber and turf. And the first thing you have to figure out is how you want to place it. Place your subject on the canvas. How much do you want to paint? I have a square sheet with a hole in it, and I usually move it around and you know, try to get an idea of how I want to position. But for the sake of saving time, I'm just going to go to it. Now, I'm just going to sketch very quickly. Shape of her head, a little more turp. And I'll be off. You just have to get the paint on there and start getting some elements of the portrait on there, and then do your correcting after. But it's very scary starting a portrait because nothing looks like nothing at first. But everything's subject to change. You could wipe it off a little bit, you know. And as I start tweaking the portrait a lot, and if some of the side of her face is off, we'll go over here like this. That, a little less. Okay. Then I start correcting and reducing with the background. So it will look very ugly and not much like her at first. But you just got to get started. And the eyes are usually about in the center of the egg shape. And she's got about a 3/4 pose here. Y'all see everything? She's got about a 3/4 pose. Just rough placement. There's the orbit there. And there's another orbit there. And neck. Now I'm looking at a slight angle here, so I'm seeing a little distortion. So every so often I'm going to have to go over here and do my corrections because you know you really have to be perpendicular to the canvas. If you are the type that paints sitting down and you want your canvas flat, it doesn't work. You'll be off all the time. You have to have it perpendicular to your eyes. So it's a bad habit. You have to break it. Now, I'm not sure if she's a little bit over too far, so time to change. Time to move her. This freehand drawing with a brush is all about corrections. So you have to forgive yourself. But I love painting portraits freehand. I mean, you could trace it, you could use a projector and stuff, but it loses a lot of the joy of it. And everything's subject to change. So I moved her. And this is kind of a big portrait. And, I'll finish it up for Rita. And I'm sure she's not going to want a big portrait of herself in her house. So she could take this and have somebody like Laser Chrome take a photo on canvas and reduce it. And a friend of mine. And it'll look just like an oil painting. Now, here's when it gets a little tricky. Now, where her blouse comes down, you can kind of judge where her blouse is by doing a vertical measurement. Now, the tip of where her skin ends and her blouse begins, that little point, is a little bit farther out than her face. Your face is tilted this way, it's got to go that way. Okay, that's it. So it doesn't look like it when you look straight on, but once you measure with that brush, the brush does not lie. So that's got to come out here. You notice on my daughter Robin's neckline there, I just couldn't believe it was that far over to the left. And I did it a couple of times, and I finally did the brush and realized. And you could use your brush to measure. You look for two sections of the facial anatomy, or this applies to body too. Facial anatomy, that it look like they're about equal widths, and you hold your hand out as far as you can so that there's no variation in depth. Put your, right now I'm putting the left part of this brush on her left cheek, and the right part where my thumb is, measurement, where her hairline begins. Now I'm going to move it around this way, go to her chin, and that same measurement measures from her chin to the top of her brow. And you could do that right here, once I get the hairline in. Do a little quick hairline. It's not an exact science, but it gets you in the ballpark. And if you do a lot of measuring like that as you're going along, it will help you immensely. So I'm going to measure this away, like this now, and then down here. And I'm pretty close, because this is her brow line right here. So this way, and then this way. So I've got the width and the height of that part of her facial anatomy. Okay, it's subject to change. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube, and I watch some people paint, and they'll start here and they paint all down. It's all traced. It's like painting by number. And it comes out beautiful. It looks like a photograph. But if you want a photograph, why don't you just use your camera? This way it's more painterly, and you're having fun, a lot more fun than trying to color by number there, and you learn a whole lot in the process. I learn so much with every portrait, and when you create it from scratch like this, it's like giving birth. It's so exciting once you start seeing that person come alive, and especially in the eyes. And if I have time, I'd like to share with you a trick about the eyes. And it's such a simple thing, but that you'll probably never forget if you do portraits, and some of you might already know about that trick. But it makes the eyes just come alive, and that applies to animals too. All right, that's okay. So I'm not going to worry about placement, even though I would like her over to the left a little more, but I'll balance it off. I'll balance it off with a little light coming here in the background. It'll look like I meant her to be over there. you know, you run into these problems all along your painting with portraiture and with landscape and still life. And the exciting part is, many times it's a happy accident and ends up being an asset instead of a liability. So you can work around this new creative thing that's happened to your painting process and have a good time. So I think, let's see, I'll put a little shadow in the left side of her face. My husband's in the audience someplace. Bob? Oh, there you are. And I told him to leave his phone on because my granddaughter has a fever of 104. So if the phone rings, he will take it and go outside. And anybody here, it's against the rules, but if you have a loved one or somebody you know that's ill, I'm not upset if the phone rings, if you want to leave your phone on. If it's not important, then shut it off. All right, so I'm going to put a little shadow here just to get the values. And okay, that's pretty good. I feel like I'm painting a running target here, and you might have to sit for me again, because I'm going to do it real fast. This is just to get the values, the lights and darks, and it's all about the light. I mean, if it wasn't for the light, we wouldn't be seeing. So I'm going to get rid of that wrinkle too for you. For a price.
What about that extra chip?
Oh, that's in shadow, so you won't even see it. Well, you have George smiling in the one you did with George, so you know you can smile if you want. Okay, you look like somebody from Mars right now, but it won't be that way forever. I'm going to take a bigger brush. Now, this is another little trick that I love. Oh, these coffee cups, you can hardly find them at garage sales even. It's the, you know, the precursor to our coffee holders in cars. But they're great for holding brushes, and it separates them. And I have the brushes. I select a bunch of brushes that I want to work with, and then my dirty brushes go here. Don't put your brushes on the table or lean them on here. It just makes a mess. Try to make your workspace as easy to use as possible. Then your degree of frustration will be lessened. And paint what you like to paint. There are rules. I mean, if you go on the internet, you see everybody with these rules, and the professional photographers, they do this first in the background, blah, blah, blah. I really don't have a process or rules. I have a few things I like to do that is common, but I have to keep my passion up in order to do a good job. If I don't like what I'm doing, or if it's monotonous or boring, I don't do a good job. So I have to keep my passion up. So if I feel like doing the eyes at this stage, even though it's really early, I'll do the eyes because it gets me excited. But if you do the eyes at this early stage, you're probably going to have to move them. So I try not to do that because it is a little early. Take a bigger brush, get some values in here quickly. Her top is going to be black, and I really like the way Robin's came out faded to the background, so I'm going to do it the same way. Just kind of get her done and worry about the rest later. The quicker you get this over with, this initial values, the better. And then you could get on to the real fun stuff of getting your painting done. But this is also a good exercise in, you know, acclimating yourself to the fact that you're doing a portrait. Just get it on there so you could see something. I mean, I've seen people do such an accurate study, and by the time they finish with their values, they're too tired. So I just can't wait to get color on my subject, which is scary also. So I guess I'm going to do that now. And I work with very little chemicals. And in my classes, I teach at the Sebastian Club also. But in my classes there, I teach all different mediums. And not just portraiture though, but I insist that my students don't bring in big bottles of turp or linseed oil or anything that smells bad. These little cups here are adequate. You don't need a full bottle of turpentine to clean your brushes. You can do a thorough job when you get home. But this way, there's less evaporation. If you have 15, 20 people in a class and some of them are painting with oils, you could have a lot of evaporation, and it's not healthy for you. So now I think I'm going to, let's see, I will take a little burnt sienna. And my burnt sienna is just a little sticky, so I'm going to add a little linseed oil. I think I'll hold this up a little bit so you can see. A little burnt sienna, a little oil because it's sticky. And maybe I'll put a little bit of orange in it and get some nice values. Nice dark value here. I think I still have some turp on here. I do not like working with turpentine with the paints because it's just another medium that dilutes the rich color. So let me wipe some of that off. And there's oil on here too. Okay. And again, pardon me if I have to clear my throat often with this cold. And this turp dries pretty quick. I mean, the umber and turpentine dries pretty quick. Now, if I want to calm this red down, I'll just put a little green in it. And let's see, sap green, I think. I'll show you how to calm that down. There's a darker shadow here, so that's a little sap green in it. Green and red makes brown. And sap green and reds, especially alizarin crimson, it's a really rich brown. Okay. And as a starting point for the skin, I mean, you could have all kinds of mixtures on your palette. When I'm doing a really, really fine piece, I'll have lots of different values and colors coming down in a cascade of circles that I can choose from. But if I'm doing a quick one, I'll just start with orange, regular cadmium orange, and white, just to get a base color on there, and then work with that. Oils take a long time to dry, so you can add colors and move the paint around, trowel it around if you want. But I'm going to take some white and orange. And for Asian and baby skin, you add a tiny little bit of yellow, and it gives it that nice little porcelain look. But Rita doesn't have baby skin, so we're not going to do that. But she doesn't have orange skin either, but that's what we're starting with anyways. And then I'll worry about the actual colors later. And get the color on and have a good time. And the green background is nice because it softens any reds I put on, calms me down, and gives you a nice value to paint with. This is also a nice color for pastels if you're doing a portrait, nice pastel paper. I like a gray or green for pastel portraits. Now the light has changed, something's changed. This way a little bit. Oh. Okay, that's it. See, I told you it was going to be ugly. And the same applies if, every orange is different and every red is different. Even when you buy the same brand, sometimes they buy the pigment from China, sometimes from Israel. Who knows where they buy it from? But it's not 100% consistent. And if you buy from one brand to another, that could really throw you off. So you have to get used to mixing color. And if you buy flesh color out of the tube, shame on you, that's a sin. You have to learn how to mix. Otherwise, you're not going to have any fun. Okay. Coming down the neck. This is fun. I think portrait painting is more fun than still life or seascapes, landscapes. Just, it's like giving birth without the pain. How I remember. Wasn't fun. Okay. Now, there's certain things about the face that are almost universal. There's always a bright light right under the nose if you have light coming. Say, well, that light is coming from about 1 o'clock, 1:30. That's another thing. No matter what you're painting, you have to determine where the light is coming from, unless it's a foggy day or there's no sun outside at all. In that case, the light just falls down. But if there's sunlight or light bulb light, any kind of light, I like one direct light. This ambient light is not my favorite. But you have to determine what time on the clock the light is coming from. I would say that would be about 1:30. So keep that in mind when you're painting anything, and it'll help you when you're trying to determine where the shadows are going. Especially if you're doing plein air outside, if you've lost a shadow, you better determine what time it is on the clock, so that you can always have that light shining from 1:30 on the clock on a tree or on a rock or whatever. So, Rita, you must be wondering what it looks like. It looks terrible. But it's a start. It's a start.
I know.
Now I'm going to, reduce some of this shadow a little bit. A little bit here. And I think I'm going to have to put a little of the eye in pretty soon. And you got a little light over here too. And no lips in there yet, so. And if you have too much paint on them there, ooh, I got too much paint on my hands. And it gets muddy. Burnt sienna is it's a muddy color. I really like working with sap green and alizarin crimson, but it's not always foolproof, so I figured I'd do the burnt sienna tonight. Okay, so no wrinkles so far. You look great. You look great. All right. Okay, I'm gonna jump in there and just put an eye in and see how that goes. You have to get the position of the eye first. I'm going to start off with raw umber and put just the eye, just like a dark brown eye, and it's not going to be that color when I'm finished. But I have to position the eyes and at the eyeballs. So I'm going to put one eye there and one eye there. And here's another thing. Well, the steroids I'm on are really making my hand shake. I have a very calm painting hand. Now you move that right over here. Pretty good. I'll leave it that way. I have a steady hand, but I'm on steroids for this thing I got. And boy, I could feel it. All right, so I'm going to accept that as okay. Maybe this side could come down a little bit. I'll worry. I'll bring the rest of that into place when I put the whites of the eyes on. Now, all my dirty brushes go here so I can distinguish, so I don't have to wash brushes that are already clean. Okay. Now, for the eyeball, the eyeballs are never white, and if you start out with white, it messes you up. So I'm going to take a little white, maybe burnt umber, ultramarine blue, And this is a color I discovered a couple of years ago, olive green. Man, I find so many uses for it. And I find that olive green and ultramarine blue with white makes a really, really good eyeball, you know, the white of the eye. So I'm going to make a dark value to start off with, because she's going to have an eye in shadow there. So the white of the eye is going to have to be dark. From teaching, I discover a lot of different colors that I probably wouldn't have discovered on my own. You know, students come in and say, oh, I like this color. And I'll think, oh, what am I going to use that for? And then I try and think, oh, wow, this is good. So this olive green I just love. So I'm going to do the white of her eye, which is kind of small. I'm just going to lean on it. At this stage, it doesn't matter. At a later stage, I'll use my my maul stick. Okay, now I'm going to do a lighter value on the eye that's a little closer to the light. And this will not look anything like Rita for quite a while. Now I think your angle has changed a little bit. That's all right, I'll work with it. All right, so, no, that's fine. I mean, it's not gonna look like you anyways. So, I'll just do the best I can. All right, now, take a little, let's see, burnt sienna. Maybe I'll calm that down with a little blue. Burnt sienna. See, I never know what colors I'm going to use because each portrait is different. This is kind of muddy. Don't know if I like that. You know, when your color gets muddy, everybody's afraid of phthalos. Throw a phthalo in. It brings it right back to life. Oh, see, there's right back to life. Okay. Phthalo, yeah. Phthalos, if you get out on your fingers around your clothes, it makes it crazy because it goes so far and it just is very unforgiving. But if you've got mud, when you paint it with oil, one of the problems is you get mud. If you mix too many colors together, they just don't react well together. And if you get mud, you can be in trouble. And I've gotten myself out of trouble by using the phthalos. And you know, if your colors are off, you could do a lot of adjusting wet on wet. But if they're really off, you could just let it dry a few days and then just start that section, you know, glaze some more color over it. Okay, I am going to just get a little liner around her eyes. I think I'll use the raw umber and maybe a little Prussian blue. Prussian blue is what I use for the real darks, center of the eyes. Do you have eye makeup on, Rita? No, okay. Well, you're gonna have eye makeup on. That's a real dark shadow here, so I'm just gonna put a dark shadow in like this. And over here. If you guys have any questions, you know, I can paint and talk too, so I'd be happy to answer any.
Is that phthalo blue or phthalo green?
Doesn't matter. I use the phthalo green, but phthalo blue or phthalo green will get you out of trouble. And there is a phthalo red, which I've never used, which sounds really interesting. You got blue eyes, right?
For the background, did you use the green, or was it kind of the leftover paint on the palette mixed with green?
This background,
Yeah.
that's actually acrylic.
Okay.
And I think I used ivory black, yellow, white, and a little green. I don't have a formula for for backgrounds, but I like that color. And I actually like the color of Robin's background here. This still needs tweaking because I have too many light areas, but I wanted the light coming over here. And I needed light to contrast that side of her face. And I think at this point, I'm going to put a dark pupil in and then start taking a little bit of